In this gospel reading, there's a line in here that I have literally never noticed before. And it's in verse 12, which says, "When Jesus heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew to Galilee. He left Nazareth and made his home in Capernaum by the sea." And it's that line, "made his home in Capernaum," that just stuck out to me. Like I've never noticed it before. And some of it is like my image of Jesus is he's this like itinerant preacher. He's going wherever the spirit may take him. He's sort of like this free spirit. He's not really rooted anywhere in my imagination. And so I was kind of surprised to hear that Jesus actually had a home somewhere. Like yes, he's always on the move. He's always going where the spirit leads, but he's not rootless. Like he's committed to this place, to forming a people, like in that place. So I looked up the Greek word. Every once in a while, I can be kind of nerdy about etymology. And because I was like, I feel like there's more to this word. So I looked it up, and it's the verb kat oikeo, which means literally to make a home, to dwell, to inhabit, to settle. And it's not just literal, it's also metaphorical. So it's the same verb, if you remember from the prayer in Ephesians 3, where it says, "I pray that God may strengthen you with power through his spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith." And in that prayer, it's this idea of, not Christ just sort of like passing through for a moment, but Christ actually taking up residence in and inhabiting your heart, like this rootedness in a way that changes you. So, that line, that verb, that idea, it's been making me think about how one thing that's been on my mind a lot this past year is this idea of place, like what it means to belong to a place, to love a place, to be tied to a place, to be committed to a place, like long enough for it to really form and shape you. And for you to have some hand, like staying somewhere long enough to kind of shape and form that place as well. So I don't know about you, but I have moved 6 times in the course of my life. I know that some of you have moved many more times than that. And it struck me that New York is actually the place that I've lived the longest, like 23 years that I've been here. And over the past 23 years, I've just said hello and goodbye to so many people, like more times than I can count. And we know that New York is this way station for people. Like often they're here just for a season, for work or for school, and then they leave. And like even though we've only been here at St. Peter's for a little more than 6 years now, like we've already seen so many people like come and go. I can see so many faces in my mind of Gregory and Jenna and Aaron Lee and Leslie, just so many people have come and gone and been part of our community for a season and then moved. And I think it's like this very American thing to be about like sort of freedom and independence, not to be tied down anywhere. Like you kind of go where the winds and the jobs and the opportunities take you. And the options, really are or can be, endless. And yet still, like, even if we don't know how long we're going to be in a place, like, what does it mean to belong somewhere and to commit ourselves to it, to love it and to care for it long enough for it to shape us and for us to have a hand in shaping it as well? So on Friday night, we had a new members dinner. And we've had lots of, actually, I'm going to ask Kevin to share a photo of our newcomers dinner from Friday. It'll come up in a second. Yes, look at those faces. It's Jeff, Josh, Caleb, David, Walter, and Meg. We were missing Ashley because she was sick. But it was the first time we've ever had a new members dinner. Like we've had newcomers dinners before, but we've never had a new members dinner. And last fall we clarified our mission statement, and as we were talking, lots of love for these new members on Zoom. But we decided during our stewardship season to invite people to like officially become members of St. Peter's, as well as to honor those who have already been living out this by making space to make a recommitment. All right, Kevin, you can stop sharing the photo. But St. Peter's is, and we hear this from you all a lot. It's a very spacious and gracious place. We always get that feedback, and that's true. And what is also true is that commitment is a good thing. Like commitment is one of the ways that love takes shape over time. And while we always want to be a spacious place, we always want to be attentive to where people are at in their spiritual journey. Like sometimes, there have been people who just needed to come, not be asked to commit to anything, and just sit in the back pew and cry and just be. That's very appropriate sometimes. And as we continue to grow and as we continue to move through this journey together, that commitment is also really important. Like if we want our community to deepen and not just kind of grow wider, then we need to call one another to those loving commitments. So we've had these 3 membership commitments that we wrote, if you remember, on our pledge form. It was about participating in our life regularly, our worship life together regularly. It was about serving in some way with your gifts. And it was also giving of your resources, your time, talent, your treasure. And as I was sitting with those 3 membership commitments, I was just noting, like, okay, those are 3, like a commitment to do 3 things. But like, why do those three things matter? Like, what are the values between those 3 things to do as a member? And the 3 words that emerged were presence, belonging, and stewardship. So presence, belonging, and stewardship. And presence is really about choosing to show up, like not as a consumer, but as someone who is willing to be formed in this community and to help form others. It doesn't mean perfect attendance in worship, though I do want to underscore that being present in worship is really meaningful and important to being part of this community. But having a pattern of showing up, it's the gift of our presence, like our attention and our attentiveness to each other, to God, showing up for others when they're hurting and when they're celebrating, knowing people well enough to know when they're hurting or when they're celebrating. So it's presence, showing up with ourselves, our full selves, our attention, which then leads to belonging. And belonging is about moving from this idea of like, this is the church that I attend, and then I get what I need and then I leave, to these are the people that I belong to. These are the people that I'm joined to. And it's coming close enough to let yourself be known and learning how to love and being loved by real people. And that belonging, it's a mutual thing. It's like covenant language to belong somewhere where it's not just like, how, do I fit in here? But like, can I love these people well? Is this a group of people that I could learn how to really love well? It's about creating that space, sharing that desire for like belonging, not just for yourself, but for others as well, and creating that, making room at the table, widening the circle, like noticing who is new or standing alone. Right. So there's real presence that leads to real belonging, that leads to stewardship. And that idea is about taking shared responsibility for the life and the mission that we're building here at St. Peter's together. Because you take responsibility for the things that you cherish, right? And the people that you cherish. So this is about caretaking and placemaking. It's kind of taking stock of like, what do I have to offer? Even if I feel like it's something really small and insignificant, like what can I offer this community? Like serving in ways that maybe fit your season of life, that's sustainable, where you're not, like martyring yourself, but something that is truly like life-giving for you in this particular season. So I was sharing with the group on Friday night about how, as I've been thinking about all these things, I've been thinking about how Benedictine monks, they take a vow of stability, a vow of stability. And the way that plays out in their community is that it means that they're committing to that community and living in that community like for the rest of their lives. Now, not everybody can do this, particularly lay members of Benedictine monasteries. The lay members, they might have families or kids or just a number of other things. There's not maybe the same level of that stability vow. Because they can't realistically take that particular vow, they kind of reflect on, well, what does that mean for me as a lay member? So for us, That vow of stability may not be, I will never leave New York City or never leave St. Peter's, in as much as I desperately wish I could make you all say that and do that as part of this community. Um, but I, I really appreciated this one reflection from one of the lay members of a Benedictine community where they wrote that the vow you make is not that you will never leave, it's a vow that you won't remain uncommitted. Let me just say that again. The vow that you make is not that you will never leave, it's a vow that you won't remain uncommitted. And that's really, I think, the invitation that we have today on this day of our annual meeting is to say, how can I make a vow not to remain uncommitted? What does it mean for me to bring my presence, to be part of the belonging of this community, to take stewardship of this community in this upcoming year? We've been saying, all year, like, what's happening in our world today is so painful. It is so challenging. It's demanding so much from us. Last week, Drew Jackson talking about what do we do when the house is on fire, says we become firefighters who help put out that fire. And what is going to be more important than ever, even as like AI is sort of blowing up and kind of taking over everything, that embodied communities of love and care and solidarity and action, communities of presence, belonging, and stewardship, where it's not just about St. Peter's, but what we do here forms us for the world so that we can take presence and create places of belonging and take stewardship over what's happening in our world. So I'm going to stop there and just give us a moment of reflection. I'm going to ask Kevin to put this slide up. And just invite us to reflect on these three words. Presence, I will show up, which is about our attention. Belonging, I will be joined to you, which is about covenant and community. And then stewardship, I will take responsibility for our shared life and mission. So I would just want to invite us to give us just 30 seconds of a moment of reflection before we kind of pivot into our annual meeting. Which of these words feels most compelling to you right now? Which of these words is really resonating with you right now? And or which one feels the hardest, or the most tender? I know that there's a number of you who came from really traumatic and difficult church experiences. And maybe that idea of belonging, to being joined to a church community, feels really risky. Maybe there is a fear in actually committing to show up, or there's obstacles that feel like showing up is really hard. Stewardship. Do I even have anything to offer this community to take responsibility for? So what's sort of resonating with you, and or what feels hardest right now? And I'm just going to give us 30 seconds to think about what one of those words might be striking us right now. I'm going to invite you now, if you feel comfortable, to just put into the chat, what is that word that's resonating with you today? If you want to be vulnerable, you can also say what feels hardest for you today as well. But just drop into the chat. Presence, belonging, stewardship. What are you sensing the Holy Spirit inviting you to step into? Right. Thank you. Seems like fairly evenly divided between presence, belonging, and stewardship. But I feel like maybe I'm seeing a lot of belonging. I'm seeing a lot of belonging. Whatever you can feel free to continue um, putting in those words as one strikes you. But whatever you choose, this is a place where God can meet you. And it's a place where we can practice together within our community so that we can bring all three of those things into our world, like showing up to our world and what's happening in it, belonging to it and allowing it to belong to us, throwing our lot in with the world and creating those spaces of belonging wherever we are, taking responsibility for it. How can we take care of our world? And that formation, it's central to who we are as a church community.